All right, everybody, and we are live for the Ask Anything edition of Monday Night Football Steelers Today. I'm your host, Eddie Provident. With me, since we're on the live stream side, is my main man, Zach Smith, Smitty. Dale and DK are going to be on their way to the stadium shortly. They've got things to do, stuff to write, so they will not be with us today. So it is Smitty and I flying, well, I guess not solo, but we're
they
two peas in a pod.
They enlisted the social media guy and the multimedia guy
so
for this edition of Steelers Today.
Yeah. So hey, listen, throw your questions out in the comment section. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Dennis says happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, Dennis. I'm on the struggle bus, I'm not going to lie, but I'm excited for some Steelers football today. To get started, while we're waiting for people to get in here, Zach,
yes.
You on Around the 412 that's coming up at 2 p.m. today on this YouTube channel, if you're watching from YouTube, you and Tyler Weeks had talked a little bit about Najee Harris. So give me a little bit of a rundown of what you guys talked about.
Najee Harris is getting better every single week, right? And that goes along with the run game and as a whole, the offensive line progressing. It's a very young offensive line, kind of expected this to happen. But at the same time, as great as that is to see, we pose the question, is it possible that they're giving him too many touches? I understand he is a rookie. He did come into the league as a 23-year-old rookie, though. A lot of tread on those tires. How much tread do we want to put on those tires? Are we going to run him into the ground in 4 years? If this is somebody that, the Steelers really want to build around this offense in the future, going down the line here, do they need to try to find like an A.J. Dillon to his Aaron Jones, a Tony Pollard to his Ezekiel Elliott, one of those things? And, if that's not on the roster right now, like if Anthony McFarland's not going to be that guy, I don't know that he is. If Benny Snell's not going to be that guy, he's not. And if Kalen Ballage isn't going to be that guy, and he's not, how quickly do we need to add another running back to this room that can take some of those carries away from Najee?
Yeah, they have to do something. I don't think that giving him the ball, 94 or giving him 94% of the snaps is sustainable. I don't think anybody thinks that that's sustainable. Hopefully, McFarland's that guy. I think as we go on this season, if he stays healthy, we'll get to see a little bit more of him and see how that plays out. Let's go to some questions. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, if we got some.
We've got some coming in. So what I'll do is I'll throw the questions up. Zach, you answer first, and I'll put my 2 cents in as I see fit. So first question we got here is literally just James Conner, question mark?
Yes. I understand the question. Yeah, James Conner. I mean, how about James Conner, though? It's great to see for him. The question in Pittsburgh was never the talent.
Right.
The best ability is availability, and unfortunately he just was not available to the Steelers a lot, and he was the product of a very poor offensive line that he had to run behind. I mean, we saw this in 2018, what he's doing right now with Arizona, and it's very nice. Although Chase Edmonds did get hurt yesterday, that's another one of those 1-2 punches that I'm looking at when I talk about, do we need to kind of try to find that type of thing for Najee Harris? Maybe not necessarily that 50-50 split, obviously, because Najee Harris is a workhorse, but someone to take that workload off. But James Conner leading the league now in touchdowns.
Yep.
What a
10
perfect
touchdowns
fit
on the season. Yeah.
Perfect fit in Arizona. And he does, the thing is, like, Chase Edmonds is supposed to be that receiving back. We saw James Conner house like a 60-yard pass after taking a screen. Like, he has that ability in him to do that, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I think that obviously everybody in Pittsburgh loved James Conner. I don't know anybody that didn't love James Conner the person. I think the problem is exactly what you said. The best availability, or the best ability, is availability, and he was hurt a lot. So I don't know that I think that stuck with Steelers fans maybe a little bit more than it should have. And because of that, do you renew that contract? And I think that looking back on it, I don't think that it was going to work long term in Pittsburgh the way things went and the way things ended. I think he needed that fresh start. I think he needed to be in a place like Arizona in an offense that I honestly think fits him a little better as a runner, as a back. So yeah, I'm happy to see James Conner doing well, man. I'm not one of those people who are going to be bitter because he's not playing in Pittsburgh and having success. I want to see that dude succeed in everything he does because he's such a genuinely good human being. So yeah,
I'm still not sure on the number 6, but
yeah, I'm not sure on this whole single digit numbers for running backs and backers and all that kind of stuff. I'm just not a fan.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got here. We've got Dennis says, who stepped on Minkah's foot? Was it Lolly? Wasn't it? I don't really know what you're referring to. I know that Dale loves Minkah. I don't know what I'm not really sure. Is there an inside joke maybe that I'm missing, Zach?
I don't understand it. I did Minkah come out and say that somebody stepped on his foot at practice or something? I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Dennis, I mean, we're here to answer any follow-ups if you got more on that, because I don't know what that's in reference to. But
neither do I. I have no clue.
Speaking of Minkah, though, I'll call it right now. Minkah is getting an interception tonight.
All right, I hope you're right, because last week I said in the staff picks that Minkah was going to get a big turnover.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he didn't get the big turnover last week, but he did have that big fourth down pass defense that pretty much solidified the game for the Steelers. So I think Minkah's coming back. I think he's slowly getting back to what everybody expects Minkah to be. I think he can tackle a little bit better, but
see, that's never been his strong suit. Not that I'm like excusing it. Like, he definitely needs.
But it's been bad lately.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got here? We got James Fetcho, who is a constant.
Shout out, James.
Yeah, James is always on these. He's always supporting the content. He says, Ben, a lot of people wrote him off. I believe it was his trust in the line. The more it grows, the better he will show, in my opinion. Dude, I echo everything you said there. I know a lot of people at the beginning of the season, especially the national media, wrote Ben Roethlisberger off. A lot of them said that he was washed. A lot of them said he couldn't do it anymore. And in the last 3 weeks, he's had a passer rating of above 90 all 3 games. So I think he's been great. I think he's been what this team needs. He's been the steady constant. No turn. He hasn't thrown any interceptions in the last 5 weeks since he's thrown an interception. And then you talk about his trust in the offensive line. I love what I'm seeing from the offensive line, Zach. I love seeing. I think the buzzword for this year. I always feel like Tomlin has one buzzword each year that eventually the media takes on, and eventually cohesion has been that word this year. I've heard the word cohesion more in the last 3 months than I've ever heard it in my life. But that's exactly what's happening. We're seeing a lot of just chemistry between these guys who've never played together, and they're putting it together relatively quick. And I do think that a lot of that is the confidence that spurs from the Hall of Fame quarterback having trust in that 5-guy team.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to James. You mentioned he's always in the comments. I see him as I'm going back through and replying to people and liking their comments. So shout out to James. But yeah, I think I really don't have much more to add to this than I think that he's exactly right. I think that his poor performance early on in the season and his willingness to not wait for anything and just be a one-read quarterback was due to the offensive line and not trusting them even when they were, sticking to their blocks. He just expected that they wouldn't because of the way that the season had started out for those guys. But as they continue to show better and improve the run game too, and make sure that they're not facing as many stacked boxes, that's just going to continue to improve as a whole. And like he said in the interview that's actually going to air right before tonight's Monday Night Football game, but we saw a preview of it yesterday. They're still learning. This offense is nowhere near where it wants to be or where it needs to be. But the thing is that they're winning football games while learning.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's see. Leah.
Yeah, I saw that. I forgot that he did miss practice, but Tomlin said that he's going to play.
I didn't know that it was still a thing because he didn't show up as as anything other than just a.
But yeah, we can blame Dale.
A footnote, just anything other than a footnote. All right, and we just lost all of our viewers. So there you go. Let's see what else we got here. Go back to Najee for a second. Jarryd Sanchez. With a great avatar, says, will Najee get over 100 yards rushing tonight?
So Chicago, their defense, they are 11th against the pass. However, they are 24th against the run.
Letting up 124 yards per game. Yep.
Yeah, and kind of everything to go back to what we were talking about with the Steelers offense. Like when this team started to win football games, you felt like it was because they found you feel like they found their formula. for how they want to do that. Is establish it on the ground. Every once in a while, we'll take their shots. Deontay Johnson with his couple long touchdowns back-to-back weeks against Green Bay and Denver. But this is the formula for them to win, is to put the ball in Najee Harris' hands. And that's, primarily on the ground, but also a little bit as a receiver too, because he can do that. 100 rushing yards. He's definitely going to go over 100 total yards tonight, I'll say. 100 rushing. You know what? Yeah, give me it, Jarryd. I'll take it.
Yeah, again, going back to my staff pick, I got Najee having a big night tonight. I think he's going to have a 100-yard game. I think he's going to have 30 or 40 yards receiving easy. I think he has a touchdown or two, and I think that opens up all kinds of room in the middle of the field for Ben Roethlisberger.
You know who I feel like has a good game, and then I want to ask you something if we have a minute here for me to pose a question.
All right. All right.
I think Chase Claypool. I think that he has a game.
Oh, I
tonight.
hope so. I hope so.
I'm actually rocking his Color Rush jersey right now, and I'll be wearing it to the game as well.
There you go.
But what I want to ask you is about a different receiver.
Okay.
So we're talking about a lot of guys right now on the Steelers offense, but you notice who we're not mentioning is James Washington.
James Washington, yep.
Like, where is this guy? Like, I know when Juju went down, everybody's like, thank goodness we didn't trade this guy, like, because this is exactly why you don't trade James Washington.
He hasn't been around, man. He's been
where is
kind
he?
of
Like,
invisible.
other than he had that holding call against the Browns, and that was really the only time that I noticed him in that game. And going back weeks now, I haven't really noticed him. What is it with this guy?
Dude, I wish I had an answer, because even in, like, when we were at training camp and we're watching the offense, he was a big part of the offense in training camp. They were using him a lot. And I just assumed, okay, this is going to be their number 4 receiver, and he's going to maybe fight for the number 3 receiver. And if someone goes down, he's definitely going to get normal snaps. And now we're in a situation where Juju did go down, and we're not seeing James Washington get those snaps. I don't have an answer. I don't know. I don't know if it's something where maybe he's dealing with something that they're not really disclosing. Maybe he's, in the doghouse. I honestly have no clue, man. I know that they like Ray McCloud. It's not that I don't like Ray McCloud, but I'm going to quote Mike Tomlin. His day job is a kick returner.
His day job.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I think he should stick to his day job. I don't like him very much as a wide receiver or a slot receiver. But the Steelers seem to like Ray McCloud and what he brings to the table, maybe a little bit more than they like what James Washington brings. I do think that there's one other wild card here that we're not talking about when it comes to James Washington: the emergence of Pat Freiermuth. I know James Washington's supposed to be that deep threat, but if you're putting James Washington on the field, in most cases that means you're probably going to be taking one of those other guys off the field. And I think they like what they're seeing from Freiermuth to where they don't want to take him off the field. And I realize that they play 2 different roles in the offense, but I think that it's one of those things where right now Freiermuth offers more of what they want than James Washington does.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that the biggest thing is Juju goes down, and he was really the only true slot guy that they had, and now they're scrambling trying to find one. And until Anthony Miller gets a helmet on game days, that's not going to happen. I mean, you can throw a big slot in there like Chase Claypool. Eric Ebron's out again tonight, but he would be a guy that, even though he's listed as a tight end, he really is just going to be a big slot. I think when he comes back, that's really the only role I see him having, especially when you talk about the emergence of Zach Gentry and 12 personnel. So I think that, I really don't know. It's just odd to me that James Washington's best season as a Steeler came without Ben Roethlisberger, 2019 with Duck and Mason throwing the football to him. So I don't know what it is with this guy. I just don't think he does anything exceptionally well. I think that he's a dependable guy, but the biggest thing in this league right now is being a good route runner and being able to win with speed. And he really doesn't do either of those things.
Yeah. I want to get to one real quick because it threw me for a loop. I'm concerned. We'll answer this one and I'll go to the one that threw me for the loop. Okay. I'm concerned how under Tomlin we've never had a dual running back threat. Do you think it's possible that McFarland steps up? We talked about this a little bit earlier, so we'll just do a flyover of this. I think McFarland needs to step up. I think for this team to continue winning and to continue the success that they're having, I think that we both agree that they can't rely on Najee Harris as much as they're relying on him. I think it's unfair to ask a rookie to do everything that he's doing. And I think that the more that they put on his plate, the better chance that there is for him to get injured. There's a better chance for something bad to happen, for him to just get tired later in the season. I do think that it's possible that McFarland steps up, and I would even go as far as to say it's necessary for McFarland to step up.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on this already. I will say, I think under Tomlin, the best running back duos that we've had, obviously, having D'Angelo Williams behind Le'Veon was awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
even when Le'Veon was healthy, D'Angelo really didn't have much of a role. It's just, man, if Le'Veon was out, you had another guy that could go for 100 yards with
Yeah.
just a nice insurance policy. Other than that, like very early, you can talk about, I guess, Willie Parker and Bus or something like that. But, well, that wasn't under Tomlin. What am I thinking? Mendenhall and Parker right before Parker got injured, and then Mendenhall won the job. Yeah, we really haven't though, and even if you had two capable guys, it's always been one as a workhorse though. Tomlin loves those workhorses. There's no doubt. Najee Harris is going to be the workhorse.
Yeah, I just think that's the style of offense the Steelers have right now. I think that's how it is under Tomlin. All right, now here's the one that threw me for a loop. All right. Is there any chance the Pirates will get Andrew McCutchen back? Robert, this is a Steelers show, my man. But because I love the Pirates, I'm going to go ahead and say I hope to God that they bring McCutchen back. I don't see it happening, but I hope to God it does. There's that. John Doe, Deontay's day job was punt returner as well, just saying. I think that comparing Deontay to Ray McLeod is it's unfair to both of them.
Here's the only thing with that is he wasn't even going to be the punt returner that year, but Ryan Switzer was so bad that Deontay ended up becoming a second-team All-Pro punt returner.
Ryan Faircatch Switzer.
Yeah, I mean, Deontay was brought here because, God rest his soul, Steelers wide receiver coach, he saw something in him. He loved him. He said, we got to get this guy. You remember the conversations like Bruce Arians calling him afterwards and saying, how dare you take him? We were about to draft this guy. So, he's a great route runner. He's already turned into one of the best in the NFL. I'm not sure where that comment's coming from because he didn't start the season as the punt returner.
Listen, I hope to God Ray McLeod turns into another Deontay Johnson. Listen, that would be great. I would love to be wrong about that. I just don't see that. I don't see that skill set in Ray.
Yeah, not to mention Deontay, like I mentioned here with route running and being the best separator. He's never gonna. People keep trying to push him inside of the slot. That would just be so obtuse of this team to do when you're talking about the only guy that really can consistently separate, and you want to line him up inside against linebacker. I mean, he's going to he would do well in there. That's fine, but then you don't have a guy on the outside that can separate against actual cornerbacks.
We've got Str8 Ace saying that's disrespectful. I don't know if he's saying we're disrespecting Ray or if that's disrespectful to compare him to Deontay. Not sure what's going on there, but we got another one from Is Herbert. It says, should we be nervous since Coach T has never beaten the Bears? Go ahead. You answer first. I'm interested.
Well, no, the only thing I'm going to say is with AFC rivals, it's more concerning because that's a pattern, right? But when you talk about a team that you play every 4 years, there is so much that has changed from the last time that we played these guys. So it's hard to really say the rosters look completely different. Matt Nagy is much worse of a coach now than what we thought he was the last time that these two teams played. I don't know. But at the same time, look how good Tomlin and Ben are on Monday night. So that kind of goes against that. So I don't know. Give and take, whatever it is. These trends you can look at them if you want.
If it's a division, I'm with you. If it's a division rival, then I absolutely take that history into account because you play them twice a year. Even if it's an AFC rival like the Chiefs or someone where you play them, 3 or 4 out of 4 or 5 years, then I take a little bit more into account. Okay. Yeah, let's see what the history is there. But like you said, they play the Bears once every 4 years. It's completely different circumstances, completely different situation. If you look at that roster that the Steelers had 4 years ago, the only holdover on the offense really is, if I'm not mistaken, Ben. That's an everyday starter. So I don't really see. I don't get too nervous about that, especially since the Bears have had a complete coaching staff turnover since then. So you look at their team, they're pretty much not the same at all from 4 years ago. So now I don't put any concern there. I think that the team just needs to show up and play and do what we know that they're capable of.
That was Mike Glennon and Jordan Howard that beat us last time we played the Bears, by the way.
It's a different circumstances, different team, different circus, different set of clowns. So, we got double HH. So is that 4 H's or is that, I don't know. Okay. But anyways, do you think the real issue with Stephon Tuitt is addition to antidepressants? addiction, I'm assuming he's saying, is it is a human condition, and he is a human after all, in spite of his Superman size and strength. I don't want to get into speculating anything on that. I think that Stephon Tuitt, I think the only thing with Stephon Tuitt right now is, injury and personal issues with his, due to his brother passing in a completely tragic. I mean, it's always tragic to lose a brother, but the way he lost his brother is just absolutely heartbreaking. I don't think that there's nothing coming from the team. There's nothing coming. There's not even a leak of anything other than just injury and, what he's been dealing with personally. I do think that this is a good reason to get into the Fletcher Cox conversation that came out yesterday or the day before. Yep. That worries me from the standpoint that maybe they don't know that Stephon Tuitt is going to come back. They're not as confident about that as they thought they were earlier in the season, because they were looking at somebody at interior defensive line like a Fletcher Cox to bring in, to kind of fill that hole. That also tells me what they think about Chris Wormley and Isaiah Buggs and all the other interior defensive linemen that have been playing. Maybe they're not as comfortable with those guys as they think, or as we think, I should say.
Yeah, I think that a lot, like Chris Wormley's filled in admirably, but those guys, they're playing out of position, a lot of them. I mean, Fletcher Cox would be a great addition to any team, and the fact that the Steelers showed interest does not surprise me in the least. Like, even if they were incredibly confident about Tuitt coming back, which, they're doing and saying all the right things in terms of that, in Tomlin speak, leaving the light on for him to return this season. But, it is very tough to say. I don't want to touch on anything other than the injury aspect of that, because, we heard that he hurt his knee, or right before the season started, pretty much, because we just thought it was like a personal issue, and that's why he wasn't going to start the season. But you see that knee brace that he's rocking, man, and that thing is pretty hefty. So not sure exactly what the injury that he suffered there was, but I'm thinking at this point, it's more so about the injury than anything else as to why he hasn't rejoined this team.
Yeah, our man Dennis, he's been all through this today. Shout out, Dennis. He says, I think Wormley and Buggs are too inconsistent. Here's what I actually do want to talk about this for a second, because I think a lot of people have been unfairly criticizing the middle linebackers of this football team, the inside linebackers, most notably Devin Bush. I think what people need to understand, if you now, again, there's probably a lot of people watching this. I see 50-something people already. So most of you probably know the game of football better than I do. I mean, I'm not, I played baseball. I don't profess to be some football guru, but what I do know from the little bit of coaching that I've done and a little bit of, film study that I've done on the high school level is you need your interior defensive linemen to eat those blocks so that your interior linebackers can get free and do what they're supposed to do. And so when you're missing Tyson Alualu and Stephon Tuitt from your lineup, and you're expecting Devin Bush and Joe Schobert and Robert Spillane to do what they're supposed to do, it's a little bit unfair. Now, that doesn't absolve those guys from having some poor games, I think. But you've got to understand that front three, especially in the 3-4 defense, is really going to have a big impact on what those linebackers do if those linebackers are not the edge rushers. If they're not teeing off on the QB, that interior defensive line really needs to do something to make sure that those inside linebackers are insulated and can get to their jobs.
Well, I mean, here's what I'll say. I already touched on the fact that Buggs definitely playing out of position. Chris Wormley, I get, where he's playing right now, filling in for Tuitt. That's his more natural spot, but they have asked him to play some nose tackle, also replacing Alualu a little bit. I actually have liked what those guys have shown for the most part against the run, sans that second half against Seattle. I think last week, though, against Cleveland was very encouraging, holding Nick Chubb to 61 yards, and 21 of that was on one carry. So you take away that, he had 14 carries for 41 yards. I mean, you'll take that every day of the week. Look what he just did to Cincinnati yesterday. So, I think that they're definitely going in the right direction with stopping the run. And they're almost back to being a top 10 defense, which, with the way that they had started the season is pretty remarkable to say. But I think that those guys have filled in admirably. But to kind of circle back, the interest in Fletcher Cox definitely was not surprising to me. But I'm also very happy that they didn't give up the compensation that Philadelphia was looking for.
I'm glad to see the back and forth in the comment section, because we got our man Stubbs saying that Wormley has been fantastic, and then Str8 Ace comes right back with Wormley has been average at best. So listen,
Well,
I think it's somewhere in between the two of those, because and I hate to be the guy that just takes the middle ground and agrees with everybody, but it's what you said. They're put in an impossible position to fill in the entire season for two guys that are, border. I mean, Tuitt was a Pro Bowler. Tyson Alualu, I think he is an above average defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman in the NFL, no doubt. So to have Chris Wormley, Isaiah Buggs, these guys that are Henry Mondo coming in and filling this and kind of doing interior D line by committee. They're not doing a bad job. They're doing better than I think I expected to see them do. But it's not Stephon Tuitt and Tyson Alualu. They're just not going to be those guys. So,
well, yeah, those guys offer more as pass rushers too, and I think that that's the biggest thing is they don't have that same splash. They can be maybe just below what those two in Alualu and Tuitt are as run stoppers, but they're never ever going to be what those two are as pass rushers.
yeah, and Todd says the line doesn't cause Bush to over pursue though. No, and that's my point. They, Devin Bush and Joe Schobert have not been what we expected them to be this year. Joe Schobert came in on a trade. We expected him to be this coverage master at middle linebacker. Devin Bush is supposed to be that sideline to sideline guy, and with Joe Schobert taking over the play calling on the defensive side of the ball, wearing the green dot. I remember that the narrative when we brought in Joe Schobert was, oh, good, this is going to let Devin Bush kind of get back to just reacting rather than having to, maybe think more on the football field. And so far, that hasn't been completely the case. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that even though the interior defensive line has a lot to do with how these inside linebackers play, especially against the running game, you're right. The over pursuit and everything, like they still need to clean some things up. So that's a really good point, Todd. What else we got here? What else we got, Smitty? Let's take a look. Let's stick
a lot
on...
of people want to talk about Bush, and of course,
yeah,
someone's going to bring up Shazier. I knew it was coming with Devin Bush.
All right, let's see here. Bush definitely guilty of over pursuing in the tape I've seen. Let's see what else we got. Okay, you said Shazier, yeah, but then again, Shazier over pursued a lot. Also, Shazier also had the speed to make up for any kind of mistakes that he made. He was a special athlete. Everybody keeps using the excuse that he's coming off an injury, but over pursuing the ball is not injury related for filling your gaps. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, I don't think that there's anything going on that you can pin on the injury. And I think when it comes to the over pursuit, when it comes to, even doing too much sometimes, I see him, it's almost like he's trying to make up for mistakes on the field. That's all mental stuff, man. That's the mental side of the game. Let's get back to some question here. We got John Doe again. How do y'all feel about Minkah's performance so far in the season? We talked about Minkah a little bit before, but let's get into a little bit more. Let's dig into Minkah Fitzpatrick's season as we sit here right now. I think Minkah has been better than what most people will give him credit for. And here's why. I think that the tackles that he's missed have been so glaring, like the Seattle game, right? Like there were a few in that Seattle game where they were just, I mean, it was everybody on the defense that aside from Cam Hayward and TJ Watt that was missing tackles like that. But I think a couple of mistakes were so bad that they stick. It's almost like the Chris Letang, if we go back to hockey real quick. Like, he makes one or two bad mistakes that are so glaringly obvious, that are so bad that everyone thinks, oh, this guy's overrated. I think that's the situation with Minkah Fitzpatrick right now. I think he's made a couple of bad mistakes that everybody saw that, if you take those away, and I know it's impossible to do that, he's actually been a lot better. The thing with Minkah, though, is we rely on Minkah as a fan base, and the Steelers rely on Minkah as a football team to make those big, as Tomlin calls them, splash plays, and he hasn't made them so far. And that's why I think people are so over the top when you combine those two factors: a couple of really bad plays, bad missed tackles, and then the lack of interceptions and forced fumbles. Now all of a sudden everybody panics about Minkah. But I think if you watch him from a positional standpoint, The plays at the beginning of the season where, maybe he was a little out of position, he's gotten those cleaned up. And I think he's getting back to what he's supposed to be as a safety, and what the Steelers brought him in for.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said what I was going to say as soon as I saw that question pop up, was the fact that if he's not making the splash plays, then all of a sudden you're really like breaking down his game aside from that, because if he's
Right.
not doing that, you want to criticize him because he's not doing that. And, you can pick out every little thing that he's done wrong, and these missed tackles are so much more glaring if he's not giving you the turnovers like he typically is. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not been the same Minkah Fitzpatrick from the first two seasons that we've seen here, but I think that he's also, kind of at a disadvantage, because the other 2 years that he's been here, we've been 4 deep at corner with 4 really good corners.
Yep.
And now that that's not the case, and he's being asked to do more, hey, cover for James Pierre, this first year player, essentially. I know he was here last year. He played 38 snaps on defense. He's essentially a rookie. He's doing a lot of overcompensating on this defense right now. But the better that these guys get, like James Pierre has shown very well. You haven't heard his name really in the last couple of weeks, and that is a very good thing. It's going to let Minkah slide back into that natural role and just allow him to be around the ball like he was breaking up that pass and the Cleveland game.
Yeah, and I think that the last 2 comments I put up here from Str8 Ace and from James, splash is not easy, especially with him moving around. Great point. I think that, and to that point, we've got James saying, I think they're asking too much of Minkah. They're making him back up 3 not so good players on the defense, and that's to your point. There's a lot going on in that defensive backfield, and this is the other thing: the way the Steelers have built their defense. And if you don't believe me, you can just listen to TJ Watt's last press availability. I believe that was on Friday. The Steelers build their defense from the pass rush out. So they're not going to have world beater defensive backs as far as the corner position goes. I don't think they're ever going to have that shutdown Jalen Ramsey type cornerback, because that's not how the Steelers build their defense. The Steelers build their defense on guys like TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and Alex Highsmith, who can get after the quarterback fast and cause chaos in the backfield, make the quarterback overthink things or try to react too fast. And then the opportunistic cornerbacks and safeties like a Minkah Fitzpatrick take advantage of those situations if it's not a sack. This defense isn't built on, dominant corners. This defense is built on dominant pass rushers and edge rushers and guys that can get at quarterbacks fast.
What I will say is, I think that I saw, he said, who was it that I saw say something about putting him in a spot? Oh, he should be put more in a ball hawk role by random guy. Shout out to random guy. I think that they can kind of use him more as a robber with the emergence of a guy like Trey Norwood. You can do some different things with Minkah.
Trey Norwood's a big point. That's a good point there, man. Trey Norwood's a big wild card here.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big piece for this defense, I think, moving forward, to get Minkah back to where, we want to see Minkah is, not necessarily having to play all these different roles because he's trying to overcompensate for what we have in the corner room right now.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here, because we got a lot of Minkah talk now. So let's move it on. Todd's going to shift us away from Minkah. Should we even consider Djax or OBJ, or is it too much of a risk for the locker room issues? You can take Djax off the board right now because he's with the Raiders. He signed with the Raiders, I believe, this morning, either last night or this morning. OBJ, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. And listen, that's not an. I don't think what happened in Cleveland is his fault, but I think that receivers room has a very good chemistry right now. I think those dudes get along with each other. They have a lot of fun. I don't know what OBJ offers this team that we don't already have in, say, a Deontay Johnson, or the deep threat that Chase Claypool can be. I don't think that it's worth the money that you would spend on him. I think that money could be better served being spent on an offensive lineman or an interior defensive lineman or a defensive back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's really not much intrigue from OBJ's side in this either. Even if the Steelers are in a position to compete for a postseason berth, this offense, like we've talked about, they operate through the run game. And, really Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, Chase Claypool, that's enough mouths to feed in the passing game. There's just no way OBJ is going to see the volume to keep him happy here in Pittsburgh.
Yep. So our last episode, Dale and I talked about this, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Zach. It says ESPN had us. This is from Stig Kierkegaard Jensen. It's a good name. ESPN had us as the worst draft this year. I think it must already have been proven wrong. How will you both rank our draft this year, seen up against other draft years? Is this better or worse? I am always a person that thinks that you really can't grade a draft class until at least 3 years after that draft class. With that said, because I think this is an extreme circumstance, when you have 5 rookies spending, if not starting, legitimate time in your lineup, that's a heck of a draft class, man. In my opinion, that's a home run of a draft class for at least 1 year. I mean, you've got Najee Harris, who I think should be. I know that the national media hasn't put him there yet, and it drives me absolutely insane talking about ESPN. But Najee Harris should absolutely be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. You've got Pat Freiermuth, who every week just gets better and every week becomes more involved with the passing game. And then you've got Kendrick Green and Dan Moore Jr., who have been every week starters on the offensive line and have both done well. All right. There were some hiccups and the wheels were wobbly at the beginning of the season, especially during that 3-game losing streak. But the way that those offensive linemen as rookies are playing right now, I'm so impressed with those two, especially last week. You put Dan Moore Jr. on an island against Myles Garrett, and he lets up 1 sack. Granted, Myles Garrett got into the backfield sometimes, but for the most part, if you tell me that a rookie tackle is going to go up against Myles Garrett and let up 1 sack, I will take that all day, every day. He did well. And then you talked about the wild card in the defensive backfield, Trey Norwood. Trey Norwood's been a very pleasant surprise. The dude, it's funny. We talk about all the issues that Minkah has tackling. Trey Norwood's like the anti-Minkah in that sense. Yep. He gets his arms on guys, and they just go down. It's impressive, man. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, Stig, having 5 rookies being consistent contributors week to week for a football team, that doesn't happen very often. And the fact that it has, you have to give the scouting department and the coaching staff a dab for what they've done with this draft class so far.
Yeah, even a guy like Isaiah Loudermilk, who they traded up for. What are they doing? I mean, he's played decent, and again, he's kind of playing out of position because of Carlos Davis not being available to this team, and he should have been, a guy after the Alualu injury that kind of stepped up. He was supposed to be next in line there, and they were excited for him. But yeah, this draft class as a whole, like you, I don't think that can be judged in year 1, but the yearly returns are nice. When you talk about, it kind of goes back to just the team as a whole, and Ben saying that we're not where we want to be, but we're winning while we're improving. And that's, the offensive linemen that you talked about in Kendrick Green, Dan Moore, those are probably the 2 that you would be most worried about, being in charge of protecting Ben in potentially his final year, a 39-year-old quarterback, and we're throwing rookies out there to protect him. And especially you mentioned Dan Moore on an island last week. He did not have help with a chip from a tight end or a running back on most of those snaps.
The only chip he got was on the Freiermuth touchdown. They sent Ben even said it in his post game that he had moved Najee over to give a little help because he saw something, and good thing he did, because that was a big play. Go back to our man Stubbs. What scares me is Justin Fields' running ability. See, that doesn't scare me. Look at how the Steelers have handled running quarterbacks in the past. I'm not worried about a mobile quarterback. Look at the quarterbacks that pick apart the Steelers. It's not mobile quarterbacks. It's guys like Tom Brady's the GOAT, but it's guys like Tom Brady. It's guys that sit in the pocket. If you give them time, they can just sit there and let things open up. I am not worried about Justin Fields at all. Rookie quarterbacks don't do well against these Steelers defenses. And you're talking about him coming into Pittsburgh on a Monday night with a crazy crowd. I'm not too worried about it.
See, that's the thing is, I think that I put a tweet out about this too. I think that that's why Steeler fans depreciate what Lamar Jackson does so much is because of how the Steelers limit him, and they think that
Right.
that's just the case league wide, and it's not. This dude goes for like 400 total yards against everybody else, and then has his worst football games of his career against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, I think that the Steelers just have a formula for this. And obviously it's something to monitor, like his athleticism outside of the pocket. He seems to be getting more comfortable. That offense is horrendous. That offensive line will make you really appreciate the Steelers offensive line, I think, tonight, when TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith go to work, Cam Hayward. But yeah, Justin Fields himself, obviously that's a threat, but it's something that the Steelers are very familiar with.
Yeah, let's go back to the defensive side of the ball here. Do you think
Man,
the Steelers
this is what I was
should have kept
smirking just
Quincy
now.
Roche? I know. As soon as it came up, I saw your face. That's why I brought it up. Listen, I love Quincy Roche coming out of Miami. He was kind of like my steal of the draft for the Steelers, so I was pretty upset to see him go. However, who in this rookie class were you going to cut over Quincy Roche? Because someone had to go. So,
well, I
mean,
think
you also could have. I mean, you could make the argument, and I know he's not in the rookie class. You could talk about maybe letting go like a Ulysses Grant, because they kept him over Quincy Roche. I can get that argument. I can get behind that. But I also know that the organization loved Yuli and wanted to give him a chance and really wanted to see what he could do, if anything. So, I mean, yeah, I'm bummed that Quincy Roche is not with the Steelers, and I really liked that draft pick. But, I mean, we're talking about a 6th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I would have kept Quincy Roche. I was very upset when they let him go, and then all of a sudden, like the emergence of Jameer Jones, like okay, but then they lose him too on waivers as well. Now I do like Derek Tuzaka as like a developmental prospect who they got from the Broncos practice squad, and they bring in Taco Charlton too. But it is like Quincy Roche, the production in college was just insane. Like I thought he was a steal in the 6th round. So yeah, we are talking about 6th rounder, but I thought he could have gone as early as the 3rd or 4th round. I did think that they didn't need to keep as many inside backers as they did. I understand the special teams aspect of things, like Marcus Allen, Ulysses Gilbert. They rely heavily on those guys for special teams. But man, I don't know. I think that just goes back to them kind of like overthinking it. And like you said, the thing with UG3, man, was always his athleticism, but he's had multiple back injuries since coming into the league. And that's kind of just sucked any athleticism that he had out of him. Like he's supposed to be like, people think that Devin Bush, they want him to be better in pass coverage.
Right.
Ulysses Gilbert is good in pass coverage, but unfortunately he hasn't been able to stay onto the field.
Yeah. I want to, since we're going to be wrapping up here, also we're wrapping up, but at 2 p.m., if you like my man Smitty, Zach Smith, if you like him, check him out at 2 p.m. with his normal co-host, Tyler Weeks, on Around the 412. That premieres at 2 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So if you're on our YouTube channel, just hang out until 2. Stick around, and you'll get another 40 minutes or so of this beautiful face right here, Tyler Weeks, or Zach Smith. Tyler too. Yeah.
Recently engaged.
Yeah. Shout out to Tyler and his new fiance. Since we're wrapping it up, I do want to get to a question that I saw here, and I hope I can find it again. I don't know if it was a question or a comment, but I think it's a good finishing conversation to have. And put your comments in. We'll answer this too in the comments. We'll try to get them up on the screen. Out of all the guys from Steelers past, I wish we had today's roster, hands down, it would be Rod Woodson. Could play every secondary position at an elite level, as well as punt returner and kick returner at an all-pro level. Double HH, that is a great point. I think that Rod Woodson is one of the greatest Steelers of all time. Nobody can tell me anything different. That dude was something to watch, man. He was special. Stubbs says Tyler stinks real quick. I had to throw that in there. But all right, so if you had to pick one Pittsburgh Steeler from this franchise's history to put on this team to improve the Super Bowl odds, to get the Steelers into Super Bowl contention, who would that guy be? I'll give you a minute. Also, like I said, if you're watching right now, throw it in the comments section who you think your guy would be. Man, that's tough, boy, because there's a lot of strategy involved with this. You can't just say, I mean, like, I want to say like my favorite guy is Jack Lambert, but like I don't know that. Man, this because he played in a more of a 4-3 scheme, so like I don't know that he helps this team as much.
Hmm.
I lean towards the offensive side of the ball. I would lean towards a lineman, but
Yeah, that's the thing is like most people's minds just go to who's the best player in franchise
but
history.
where's the biggest weakness that you can fill with
Yeah.
a Hall of Famer?
Which is why I think Rod Woodson's actually a really good answer. I mean, you could say Mel Blount, but Mel Blount would get kicked out of every single game. So
yeah. All right. I'll tell you what though. I'll say this though. Todd brings up a good one here. Interior defensive line help. What better interior defensive line help than bringing Mean Joe Green back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I is Herbert. For real, got to be Allen.
I mean,
Allen
that's a good one.
Faneca,
Recently,
bringing in a go. Yeah. But here's the thing: Faneca played guard, and the weakness on this offensive line is tackle. So, I mean, I would take Allen Faneca over either two of the guards we have, and that's no knock on the two guards we have right now, Dotson and Trey Turner. But I'm taking Faneca every time over those guys. Here's a good one.
That shouldn't be a hot take, but
yeah, prime Big Ben. Does that count?
That honestly occurred to me too. I was thinking just like
yeah, that counts. Nolan,
early
that absolutely
2010
counts. Yeah. James Fetchko goes with I go Woodson or the Big Snack, my man, the Big Ragu. If you have not watched the Ramon Foster show, absolutely catch it before this Steeler game. Absolutely catch the Ramon Foster show.
Jeffrey.
Yeah. Before you watch the Steeler game tonight, DK and Ramon Foster have a great conversation about the youth of the offensive line and why that's a big deal for this football team and how it's actually a positive. So when you're done with this, watch Around the 412, and then when you're done with Around the 412, go back into the from yesterday. Just go back and watch the Ramon Foster show with DK.
There's enough content on this channel for it to just fill up your entire time until the Steelers play tonight.
Hey, I'm frozen up right now. My battery died on my camera, so
nice.
We'll get this wrapped up here in a minute. My man Mike Fitz says Greg Lloyd. That is a great answer too. But imagine, okay, so we the Steelers lose Melvin Ingram, right? And now we're looking for Taco Charlton to be that third guy as the edge rusher. Now you say, hey, you know what? We don't need a third guy on edge rush. We're gonna make Alex Highsmith that third guy as edge rusher because we're bringing Greg Lloyd back and we're gonna put him with TJ Watt. What do you do as a quarterback with that one?
James Harrison, Lamar Woodley for like 2 seasons.
Yeah, 2 seasons of Lamar Woodley. We've got Stubbs with I think the two funniest. Jeff Reed and Dan Marino. Not an ex-Steeler, but
go back to like the
1984
draft.
Yeah. Instead of taking Gabe Rivera, you take Dan Marino, and the fortunes of the franchise of the 80s is completely different. Hey, look, since I'm frozen, like I said, my battery died on my camera. Smitty's got things to do before this football game tonight. I know he's going. If you're going to the game, shout out Smitty. See if you can find him. Everybody that finds him, he'll give them $20 each.
I might be able to teach you how to Dougie too. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you get it.
There you go. Hey, listen, for everybody that hung out with us today in the comments section, for everybody that watched along with us for the whole 47 minutes, we appreciate you all. This has been Steelers Today live stream edition with Smitty, Zach Smith, and myself, Eddie Provident. I almost said Mad Chad Nolan because of the just how conditioned I am.
Mad Chad Eddie show.
Listen, I will probably see you either tomorrow or Wednesday with Dale down on the south side. So again, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.